Techno update. Subscribe now.
It is obvious that the Oukitel C8 is a cheap phone once you pick it up. The phone is made completely out of plastic. We have a glossy black plastic finish, plastic buttons, and even though the build quality is pretty good for such a cheap phone, you will definitely see this is a cheap device after all. Well, you're paying 80 bucks, right? Obviously, the display is the key selling point, and we have 18:9 aspect ratio panel for the price of just about 80 bucks, and that panel is actually pretty good for such a cheap phone. Obviously, it's not the sharpest screen out there, but it's decent for the price. Another feature worth mentioning is that you get a removable backplate where you can access the battery, 2 SIM card slots, and the micro SD card slot. On the front you get a 5 megapixel selfie shooter, LED flash for night selfies, but there is no LED notification light. On the back we have a single camera system and the fingerprint scanner that's actually pretty good. Well, it's not the fastest out there obviously, but it gets the job done. As far as loudspeaker goes, well, you can't expect anything special at this price point. It's not the best, but it's decent, again, for the price of the phone. As far as specifications go, again, you can't expect much at this price point. You get the MTK 6737 CPU, just 2 gigs of RAM, and just 16 gigabytes of internal storage, which is thankfully expandable via the micro SD card slot. As far as gaming performance, it's kind of poor. You can't expect to play any games. I mean, if you play 2D games, you're gonna be all set, but if you want to play 3D games, even a 4-year-old Assault 8 lags and stutters even on the medium graphics settings. As far as user interface goes, the phone ships with almost stock Android 7.0 out of the box, and we have almost stock look, just a few redesigned icons, nothing special. As far as extra features go, we have some gesture and motion controls. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. This is expected at this price point. Again, you can also customize the navigation bar, but that's about it. As far as the overall performance of the user interface, it's pretty good. Well, you should expect a little bit of stutter, especially if you install a lot of apps like I do, but no major lag, no major issues whatsoever. As far as the overall image quality, well, it's an $80 phone. Can't expect any miracles from this camera. I would say you can take okay pictures for social media, but nothing more. Especially once you take pictures in low light, the results are quite terrible. But if you take pictures during daylight, you may get some okay looking photos. Selfies, again, look kind of okay. They are usable for social media, but they may not look that great. As far as video recording quality, it's decent for the price, but again, you can't expect much from an $80 phone. So I'm testing out the front-facing camera of the Oukitel C8 4G edition. This is an $80 phone that has 18:9 aspect ratio display. Quite decent specs for such a low price, but as always I'll tell you what I think in the full review. As far as connectivity goes, I didn't have any major issues. I would say that the call quality and signal reception were pretty good, not the best but decent. I didn't have any issues with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and even the GPS lock speeds and accuracy were okay. However, there is no gyroscope sensor in this phone, meaning that you can't use this device with any VR headsets and you can't watch 360 content. I would say that the battery life is actually one of the strong points of this phone. The phone has a 3000 mAh unit and I was able to achieve about 6 hours of screen on time, which is great, but keep in mind it was more on a moderate usage. If you are a heavy user, you should expect to get about 4 hours of screen on time. However, it takes about 3 hours to fully charge the phone, which is a very long time. So we've come to the conclusion part where I wanted to summarize the pros and cons. Obviously, the first pro is that display, because we get 18:9 aspect ratio panel for the price of just about 80 bucks. That display is pretty good too, like for the price of the phone, not the sharpest panel out there, but it's decent. Also, the phone looks nice, but at the same time it looks kind of cheap because it is mostly made out of plastic. I also like that we have a pretty reliable fingerprint scanner, stock Android user interface, and a pretty good battery life. However, speaking of that battery, it takes about 3 hours to fully charge it, which is a very long time, and you should also expect poor gaming performance due to kind of low-level specs like 2GB of RAM, 16GB of storage, and that mediocre MediaTek chipset. Finally, the camera can take okay-looking pictures in daylight, but overall camera performance is kind of mediocre.